Hello and welcome to this tour of the online risk assessment tool. For other videos in the series, please check the how-to videos link on the horticulture producer page on hort.boardbia.ie. In particular, you can watch the short explainer video which covers the aims and benefits of using the online risk assessment tool. In this particular video, we will cover everything you need to know to access and find your way around each of the risk assessments within the risk assessment tool. Firstly, to access the online risk assessments, you need to log in to the BoardBia Horticulture Producer page and click on the Online Assessments link. If you have not already completed the pre-assessment questionnaire, you must do so before you can access any of the risk assessments. That's located here on your risk assessment panel. You can go to the how-to videos link on the home page to access videos that will cover logging in to the risk assessment page, as well as finding and completing your pre-assessment. On the risk assessment panel, you will see that there are 3 risk assessments. That's hygiene, water, and environmental. For the purpose of this tour, we'll have a look at the hygiene risk assessment first. If it's your first time accessing the hygiene risk assessment, once you've clicked on the hygiene link, simply click Start New Risk Assessment. If you have previously started a risk assessment, you'll go to the Edit or Continue Risk Assessment link. Once on the main risk assessment page, you will see that all risk assessments are laid out in the same way, with process steps here listed on the left-hand side in each of these green tabs, activities listed under the process step. Here are your activities, and under each activity, you will see hazards and control measures. Let's have a look at some of the main features on this risk assessment page. So firstly, you'll see the home button at the top right-hand corner of the page. If you click this, it will bring you back to the home page. You'll see your username once you've logged in, and the sign out button, which will allow you to sign out at any time. At the top of the page, you'll see the risk assessment progress bar. So this bar is split into 8 sections, which correspond with each of the 8 process steps listed here. Once you've completed a section, it will turn green with a little white tick in it to indicate that it is complete. Directly below your risk assessment progress bar, you will see the section progress bar, and this relates to the particular section that you're working on at any particular time. So for example, here under the site selection section or the site selection process step, you will see that we are partly completed. So that means that we have entered information under part of some of these activities, but we have not yet completed the entire section. Again, this will go green once it's completed. Under your progress bars, you have your crops listed and the risk rating associated with that crop. So this information is gleaned from the information you inputted into your pre-assessment. That was the quick assessment that you completed prior to starting any of your risk assessments. Let's get into the risk assessment. So on the left-hand side of the page, as I mentioned, you will see the process steps. These are the stages which are generally associated with the production of horticultural crops. So this includes site selection, site preparation and planting, growing, harvesting, post-harvest handling and packing, dispatch and transport, site and buildings hygiene management, and personnel management. The process step you are working on at any time will be larger and bolder than any of the others. So for example, here, we're currently looking at site selection. So this one looks a little bit larger and bolder than either of the other 7. So under each process step, there are a number of activities associated with that process. For example, under the first process step, that's site selection, you can see the activities listed here are site suitability assessment and growing site positioning and management. If we want to expand any of these activities, you simply hit the plus sign, and under each of the activities, you will see a number of hazards listed. So these are any of the possible hazards that might be associated with this particular activity. So food safety hazards are anything that could cause contamination of your product, and that could include physical, chemical, or microbiological contamination. So that's the hazard type. For each hazard listed, if you hover over the information button, you will see a more detailed description of that particular hazard. As you move down the page, you will notice the hazard bar on the right-hand side of the page. So this will help you keep track of which particular hazard you are working on at any particular time. The hazard you're working on will be highlighted in green and will be visible on the right-hand side of the page. For each hazard, a number of control measures have been listed for you. These are the precautions that may be in place on your site to prevent the contamination of your product. You can see these listed here. Again, for more detailed information on any one of these control measures, simply hover over the information button. For each control measure, you will be given the option of selecting whether it's in place, whether it's not applicable, or whether you might put it in place because you feel it is relevant to your site or production process. Each of the 3 risk assessments within the risk assessment tool are laid out in a very similar manner. So let's have a look at the water risk assessment. Again, if you're starting a new risk assessment, you can click the Start New Risk Assessment button, but if there's an existing assessment, you will have to select Edit or Continue. You will see the same features as we saw in the hygiene risk assessment. The only difference here will be in the process steps. Your activities and your control measures and hazards will also be different, obviously. So your water process steps are again listed on the left-hand side of the page. And these include water sources, irrigation, pesticides, hydroponic growing, washing, cooling, cleaning and sanitation, and staff hygiene and drinking water. The process step you are working on at any time will be larger and bolder than the rest. So you can see we're on process step 1, water sources. So that looks slightly larger and bolder than any of the rest of them. If we have a look at our environmental risk assessment tool, simply by hitting back, edit and continue. Again, you will see a similar outline with similar features, the differences being the environmental risk areas that are listed here. So the difference between the environmental risk assessment and the hygiene of the water is that instead of process steps, we have environmental risk areas listed. So these are the environmental areas that might be affected by the production of horticultural crops. Those would include soil and land, water, biodiversity, air, and energy and greenhouse gas production. The area, again, that you're working on at any one time will be bolder and larger than the rest. And under each process step, you have the same activity. Under each activity, you will see a number of hazards and a number of control measures which might be in place on your site in order to reduce the risk of any one of these hazards. You have your hazard bar again on the right-hand side, showing the hazard that you're working on in a lighter green, and the other hazards associated with this activity in a darker green. So now you should be comfortable in logging into and finding each of your hygiene, water, and risk assessments and understand the features and the layout of each of the pages. There are some additional features on the right-hand side of the page. This includes Review To-Do List. So this is where you can see a compiled list of any of the control measures that you select for will put in place. Those will be listed here, and you'll be able to see them at any time by clicking on this. You'll be able to update them when you actually do put them in place, and then they will be saved into your risk assessment. Change of staff allows you to simply change staff names within your risk assessment. So for example, if there's a change of staff or responsibility changes between staff members, you'll simply be able to find the name of the old staff member and update it with the new staff member without having to go through each section of your risk assessment. When you've completed each of your risk assessments, you'll be able to click on this print final report and you'll get a PDF version of your entire risk assessment, which you can save and print and keep for your records. If you need any assistance, or you want to leave feedback, or you have queries in relation to the risk assessment tool, you simply click on the Need Assistance button, fill in your information, and then submit. And lastly, you will see the Resources button. So this allows you to access a compiled list of resources which cover topics in relation to each of the hygiene, water, and risk assessments. By clicking on any one of the links, it will bring you to that particular resource. So now we have covered logging in, finding each of your risk assessments, that's hygiene, water, and environmental risk assessments in the risk assessment tool, the overall layout of the page, additional features on the page, and how to find your way around it. Now you're ready to actually start completing your risk assessment. Please go to the how-to video link on the Bord Bia Horticulture producer page, that's at hort.bordbia.ie, for more videos and videos in particular in completing sections of your risk assessment. Thank you.